My name is Aaron Lopresti. I've been a comic book artist, a commercial illustrator, and a writer for over 25 years, and this is my YouTube channel. Welcome to episode 8. Today we're jumping back to penciling the first page of the new Garbage Man story. We'll be skipping ahead to panel 3 where we will begin working on some effects lettering and then move to a close-up of Garbage Man. Let's get to it.
We're going to start off today by working on this sound effect here that's just prior to panel 3. I'm using more of a regular pencil because I want a thicker line for the sound effect. I never try and do a sound effect with real even lines and uniformity because, well, quite frankly, it's much more difficult. And most of the time when you're doing a sound effect anyway, it's generally, I don't know, you want to get more of a random, looser feel to it. At least that's my feelings on it. So I'm going to have some stray lines here. I used to really stink at lettering. Some of you may think I still do. But regardless, I used to be a lot worse than I am now. And that's something I worked on to get better at. So I could do just what I'm doing here is incorporate some sound effects and lettering actually on the art, which of course is not done anymore at all. I did a lot of lettering in the original Garbage Man work I did for DC. And those of you who get the book will be able to see that. I did all the lettering for the title pages and sound effects. And it was a lot of fun. It kind of felt like old-fashioned comics. But, you know, if you're not old like me, then old-fashioned doesn't necessarily mean the same thing. That's really all I'm going to do on this, is just kind of thicken up. And I might, I don't know, kind of do an outline here and maybe I'll stay with it, maybe I won't, I don't know, we'll see what it looks like. Because I don't really know that it's necessary. Maybe. We'll see. Don't hold me to this. I may not keep it. All right, so let's jump in on Garbage Man's face. Seems like I'm always starting with the ear, doesn't it? This isn't too different than what, you know, we've been seeing before on the previous videos. I just using the blue as a template to kind of put my pencils over. Thing is, though, there's going to be a lot more detail on this face than what we've covered so far in the videos, and that's kind of why I wanted to skip ahead and do this panel. instead of the second panel, which is just another shot of Garbage Man sitting down, which was just a closer shot of what we had in the first panel. And I thought, well, let me do something a little bit different here. Mix it up a little bit, give you a little bit of variety. Now, Garbage Man's going to have a surprised look on his face because he's hearing the sound effect, which is essentially a twig getting snapped, or maybe a branch or something. But anyways, his eyes are going to be wider. I don't want him to look scared because, well, there's very little that scares Garbage Man. He's been Garbage Man for a while, so he's pretty, I think, comfortable of who he is or what he is. And he doesn't have a lot to be afraid of. But I still want that sort of surprised look on his face, because he certainly wasn't expecting to see anybody out in the woods. So what we've got here is we kind of keep his eyebrows still sort of, well, not angry so much as, but sort of intense, right? So his eyes are wide, so he's reacting to what he's hearing, but, you know, I'm keeping the brow down, as Mr. Potato Head would say, with his angry eyes. And that way he doesn't look scared, he just looks annoyed and surprised a little bit, and that's what we're going for. We're going to have a lot of shadow on this face too. Again, all my line work is going towards the light source, which is coming this way. So I want all my lines going towards that light source out of the shadowed areas. That's all going to be black right there. There is oftentimes a lot of pausing and looking at the drawing and going, what do I really want to do next? Which is not always conducive for doing a how-to video. We want to have all of our thinking done before we start drawing, but unfortunately that's not always possible. And I do a lot of thinking while I'm drawing. I'm going to lift this lip up just a little bit here, kind of get more of a, maybe a little annoyed look to his face. Show his bottom teeth here, but not his top. It's kind of like he's pulling his lower lip down. I may widen him out a little bit, his face out a little bit. So all that hard work we did on the ear has gone away. I'm going to move him over probably about like that. Make him, make his jaw a little bit. Let's see. It's all going to be shadowed down here anyway, but one of the things I like to do with Garbage Man or any sort of muck monster is put some like veins or coming off his face. I guess it could be ooze, but little highlight in that shadow, at least for now. Unless I, of course, change my mind again, which may very well happen. You know what? I think that ear is too high now. This is the process. You know, you get it in there and you think that's the way it should look, and then you look at it and go, no, that isn't the way it should look. And you end up changing stuff. At least if you're me, you do. Okay. Shaping the shadow on his forehead is important because, like I've said before, I don't like it to feel like it's going flat. I want it to feel like there's some contour to it a little bit. I'll put a highlight there so I don't lose his brow. I may change my mind about that too. All right, this is all going to go black over here, so I kind of want to, I don't want a hard line there because I want to really, when I fill in the black here with a pencil, I really want to get a good feel for what that's going to look like before it gets inked. So I'm not guessing. Guessing is terrible because sometimes it comes back from the inker if you're not inking it yourself and it doesn't look the way you want it to look. And you can either blame the inker or you can say, you know what, I did not pencil that right. So as I mentioned before, the reason you're filling in the blacks is to make sure you know what this looks like before it gets inked. If you don't like the way it looks like this, you're not going to like the way it's going to look after it gets inked. I can tell you, guarantee you that. I wonder if maybe I have too much top of his head here. I might want to bring it down just a little bit there. Yeah. Yep, I think so. His eyes are incredibly crooked. See, those are the things you notice after you put a bunch of work in. You go, okay, great, now I'm going to erase all this. His head is turned this way. I'm going to draw this in real quick with a blue line. Okay. So that's a curve following the contour of his head. So that eye should be up here farther. Let's see. Yep. Yep. Yeah, sometimes it requires a lot of extra work to get something to look the way you want it to look or to look right. I hesitate to say look right because it may look right to me, but it may not to somebody else. But I guess ultimately you're satisfying yourself to a certain degree, especially on a creator-owned book. I don't have anybody looking over my shoulder saying, I don't like that. Oh, that eye's too big. The pupil gets too big, he looks more like a Disney character than he does a monster. One thing when you're putting in cross-hatching or line work on a large shape, black shape, you really want it to feel like it's coming out of the black and becoming really what you're creating is an artificial gray or a fade from black, your black area to your white area. So you want these lines to come out of the shadow, not necessarily just to be tacked on there. You want it to feel like the black is slowly dissolving away. And what you can do is you make your line work really, really close together as it's coming out of the black, and as it gets farther away from the black, you can create a larger space between the lines. But when it's coming out of that black, I really want it to transition out smooth and naturally. I don't like that. Let's forget that ever happened. I might put a stick coming out of his chin here, just to continue to make sure he feels like he has, some texture. That line, there's an indication of his clavicle coming down. One thing I want to make note of, when you're doing veins, and these are technically, that's what they would, if I was doing the veins on, somebody's arm, the people that put lines on both sides of the vein are doing it wrong. And I'm sorry if that offends anybody, but it's the truth. You should have a shadow on your vein on the side that is away from the light. And then where the light is hitting it, you want to leave that open, okay? That way it feels like it's underneath the skin instead of being drawn on top of the skin. You can see here again how I've left this side undefined, and just the back side has the light. Okay, you can still see the vein, but now it feels like it's integrated into the figure or underneath the skin, which is a more natural and realistic way to portray it. That always used to drive me nuts when I'd see guys do veins and draw both edges of the vein, because it just doesn't look right. And then when that vein cuts across a shape like this, you go in like this. Okay, and you can put as much shadow underneath that side as you want. This side I leave open. And again, the vein feels like it's under the skin as opposed to just, being drawn on top. And depending on how crazy I want to get, I can put in a ton of these. But when they cross, you got to remember, okay, if this is the shadow side and this is the shadow side, then this side of this vein needs to be left open right there, right? So it's open on this edge and it's open on this edge with a shadow being behind it. And that, folks, is how it is correctly done. I don't like that connecting there. It's a weird looking shape. I'm going to do this instead. It's wonderful. Okay, my color spots on this guy are over here on this side of him, so you're not going to see any here. And when I'm drawing this character, it's just, you know, how much junk do you want poking out of him? That's just becomes a, you know, personal preference, I guess, because there's no set amount. The character is always picking up new pieces of trash, and it's, you know, it's integrating into his body whether he really wants to or not. So there are certain things that are consistent about the character where his color spots are. But other than that, you can kind of have fun. I have a couple. He has a rebar, his rebar coming out of his knee, and he has one big weird-looking branch sticking out of his back all the time. But that's kind of right behind where his head is, so I'm not drawing that here. But other than that, I have a little bit of freedom to kind of put in there what I want. In the very first story, he had a syringe sticking out of his arm, which sparked a memory to his origin. So, you know, you can always put in interesting little things like that to use as story devices too. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to lose this. I am. And then just do something like this, kind of a crease. Now, obviously, if you're running a vein or a crease through a completely black shadow area, you have to draw both sides of it because there's black on either side of it. So don't be sitting at home going, "Well, you just said you can't do that." Well, you can do it if you have to do it. And when you're running through a solid black area like that, you have to do it. But see, the interesting thing is if you bring it out of a solid black area, and let's just do this for the sake of argument since I was talking about it, you go like this, right? It goes in here. Okay, so now I have to indicate both sides of this vein, right? But when it comes out, it loses the other side because the light, that's the light side of it. And so then it sort of looks right again. And I try to make these lines really wavy and not straight and hard, so again, so they have a more natural feel to it. Okay, so we know this is all going to be solid black down here, so we got. I always kind of like that feeling that you know, the characters are merging from complete darkness here, or this total black over here. This face is kind of growing out of that. I always thought that looked pretty cool. Yeah, you know what? There's a reason I erased that, and I'm going to erase it again. And then I'm going to put in a couple of lines here. Those are, I got those from Wrights, and you go look at any Swamp Thing comic, and whenever Swamp Thing turns or looks, there's those, you know, kind of lines with the two lines over, motion lines with the two cross hatches across it, or one cross hatch. And then I picked it up from Wrights, and I liked it, and so I've kept it. See, and then I might look at this and say, well, you know, that delineates his chin line maybe a little more than I want to. So what if I just eliminate that completely? And then kind of have his face bleed into his neck a little bit there. I don't know, I kind of like it. So I'm going to leave it. All right, I think that's pretty much it. You know what I'm going to do, though? I think I'm going to black this in because I think it's becoming an open space that's kind of confusing. Okay, so we do that. You got your sound effect here, Garbage Man reacting to it. And that's panel 3. The word balloons are going to be up here someplace. And hopefully it won't cover up too much of him, because I don't think he's saying that much other than what the heck. See, that was a bad move. I don't like that. Sometimes you got to kind of look at it and say, you know what, I need to stop. Okay, here's a quick straight on shot so you can see exactly what I did. The shot from over my shoulder skews your perspective a little bit, so you're not seeing exactly right what is on the page. This straight on shot will give you a pretty accurate view. I will admit I did go in and mess with the eyes a little bit again, because I just felt I felt this one was too close to the nostril, so I moved it slightly over to the right, and I adjusted his right eye, or the eye on the left side here. I did readjust that again. But anyway, that's sort of the process, and there you go. That's panel 3 to the first page of the new Garbage Man story. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. You can also hit the notification button to get alerts when I post a new video. Make sure you come back by soon so you can check out my next episode.